This is Support is Sexy, episode 127, with Karmetria Burton, Director of Supplier Diversity at Delta Airlines and founder of Paint Your Lips Red. Welcome to the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, producer, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I talk to women entrepreneurs who share their journeys and the true stories of their wins and their lessons, and give you insight and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. Thank you so much for being here, because it would not be the same without you. So today, our guest, Karmetria Burton, and I am so happy about having her on, not only because of the great information that she provides, but because I really thought her into existence. And let me explain. A few months ago, I did an interview on the podcast with Catherine Finney, who is the CEO of Digital Undivided. And within that conversation, Catherine spoke about supplier diversity and how a lot of women entrepreneurs don't think about supplier diversity programs at different corporations. And we also, if we're solo entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, as they say, we sort of take ourselves out of the running for these potential opportunities with different companies because we think we're not big enough and that kind of thing. So Catherine really got me thinking, and make sure you go back and listen to her episode. But Catherine really got me thinking about that. And I said, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to talk to someone about supplier diversity, find someone within that space who is an expert who can really speak to the programs that are available, why women entrepreneurs should think about it, and that kind of thing. Fast forward to just a few weeks ago, and I was privileged to be a moderator on a panel for the She Who Dares event in Atlanta. And on that panel was Karmetria Burton, today's guest, who is the Director of Supplier Diversity at Delta Airlines. Fantastic. Wonderful woman. I was so taken with her, not only because she's so knowledgeable and experienced within this space of supplier diversity and diversity programs, but also because she has other things going on, like a lot of us do. And what Karmetria has is this movement called Paint Your Lips Red, which she's going to talk about within this episode. So that is why I say I sort of manifested her, or this idea of her, but she was just the perfect fit for this episode. So you will get great information from her about supplier diversity. Please listen to it, whether you're a bigger company or you're just starting out. Listen to it, think about it, and if you're not ready to do it now, this might be something you consider in the future, which I thought was a great reason to talk to someone like Karmetria in this space. So what you'll learn about is what supplier diversity is and how does it work, how to get certified and what that means, the benefits of registering your business as a minority or women-owned business, how to think outside of the box when considering what your business may be able to offer a corporation. Karmetria has great advice about that. Why it's smart for women-owned businesses and solopreneurs to be aware of supplier diversity programs, and some of the important numbers that you need to keep in mind. Also, the importance of being a scalable business, how to know when your company is corporate ready, Karmetria's 3 top tips for companies interested in being part of a supplier diversity program, and she really shares things that we don't necessarily think about. Also, how to get over low points in your career. Karmetria, as I said, in addition to sharing information that she has about supplier diversity, also talks about her own personal journey, which is a fascinating one as well. She also talks about how to rebrand yourself after a setback, why you should never let your title define you. Also, as I mentioned, you'll hear from her how she's empowering women through the Paint Your Lips Red movement. And another thing that I love, that I'm all about, we talked about support and how she learned to give up the phrase, I got it. So tons of information in here. You want to be sure to go to supportissexypodcast.com, search for Karmetria, Karmetria, and you will see her show notes there with links to all of the resources and information that she mentions in this episode. So you want to be sure to check that out and be sure to take action. If you think this is something that works for you or could be potential for your business, do some research, check out the resources she mentions, and go for it. And I would love to hear about it. All right. So again, I know you're going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, Karmetria Burton. So Karmetria, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here.
Pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, Elayne.
Absolutely. Now, first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Great question. I have grown up around a family of entrepreneurs. In college, my father was an entrepreneur. When the whole recycling, kind of the buzz, sustainability started back in the I would say late 80s, early 90s. And so my father, fortunately, provided a pretty good life for me, my mom, and my brother, but I always remember the hard work that I would see him putting into it. But I love that he had flexibility. He could create his own schedule. He could be as innovative, and he could employ people, which really made an impact and changed people's lives. So throughout college, I would support him in different ways and help him with the business when I would come home from school. And actually, right out of college, nobody was hiring, and my dad hired me, right? He said, hey, I can't pay you, but room and board is free.
Right.
If you want to come back home, and help me with some of the college acumen and the business acumen that you've learned. And I did that probably for about 18 months to 2 years. And I learned so much, just how you can just really be innovative and your creativity can just go as far and as wide as it need to be. And so I did that probably for about 18 months to 2 years, supporting my dad, helping him grow the business. Actually, it was on a sales call when I got my first corporate job. The people I was selling to was just so impressed with my knowledge and professionalism and enthusiasm, they made me a job offer.
Oh,
and I
see?
was, oh my God. So I had to go back home and tell my dad, there's the loyalty, the family business. And he said, absolutely, you should take that. You're young, go and get that experience, and maybe build on that experience to maybe start your own business. So falling in love with entrepreneurship goes way back to when I was a little girl with my dad. Second story, and I'll make it quick. My great grandmother, bless her soul, she died at 106 years old.
Wow.
I'm just so blessed to have known her and been in her life. And as you can imagine, limited education, growing up in South Louisiana, she would sell her baked goods after church on Sunday, right? And so entrepreneurship at its finest. So she did probably, for about 2 years from what I remember, but then everybody would love her cakes. People would want her to send the baked goods to them in different states. And she opened up a little bakery in the back part of her house. And so when people would come to Louisiana to visit their family for holidays and special occasions, they would go see Miss Elvora for her cakes and sweet potato pies. And I was right there, wrapping them, putting forks in the bag with napkins. And so I saw it, firsthand, even from a little girl as well.
I love it. That was a great story. That was definitely worth it. Now, you grew up in Houston, right? Yes. Okay. Yep. So what was a
cowgirl?
Cowgirl. Oh, okay. What was a young Karmetria like?
Oh my gosh! And this is so funny you would ask that because I'm writing a book and I kind of talk about it. I was very inquisitive. I asked a lot of questions, always just intellectually curious. And I met no stranger, right? So everybody I met, it was just, how are you doing? Do you go to college? Where do you work? They always say I was before my time. I had been here before. And so love to read, was just a reader of books, avid book reader, would always create fantasies in my mind. Books take you there, and that's why I'm a big proponent of reading, because sometimes reading gets us the exposure that we may not physically get. So I was exposed to a lot of things through reading and books, and I was just a talker, a lot of questions. And it's so funny. My family would say, if you just be quiet for 2 minutes, we'll pay you $5.
Oh, no.
Be quiet. And I would just say, okay. And Elayne, at 1:58, I couldn't hold it.
You could do
I would
it.
just bust. And what do you think? And they said, yep, so you didn't get the $5.
Right. Oh, I was thinking, that was your first way of having a little business of your own, but you couldn't do it. You had questions.
Yes. But the funny part about it is, I always tell people this, my family would pay me to be quiet. Now people seek after my voice for empowerment and equipment, right? So people are paying me to speak now. And I always laugh at my aunt. I said, see, you started something. You would pay me to be quiet. Now people really want to hear what I have to say.
Right. I love that.
So, yeah.
Thank you. What would you say were some of your greatest influences growing up? I know I can imagine your dad and seeing the business and your grandmom, as you mentioned. What were some of your other influences?
My parents were teenage parents. So by all rights, I shouldn't be here, right? So they were teenage parents, limited education at the time, right? But my grandmother, you know how we always have Big Mom and Big Daddy just being those support systems. My grandmother told my parents, hey, I'll keep the baby. You guys go to college, right? So for 4 years, my grandmother raised me. And so I saw that influence of her getting up every morning. She was a city bus driver, taking me to school, coming home, doing homework with me to the best of her ability, and praying with me, right? That's what I remember. She was my first introduction to God or my spiritual side. And then I remember sitting in the kitchen, reading books while she cooked, right? So, a lot of women from the South are good cookers. I am not.
You're not one of those women.
I am not one of those women. So while they were in the kitchen cooking, I was sitting on the counter reading. No. You sit over there and read. You get your lesson. We got this. And so while they were sitting, putting, pinches of salt in the potato salad, and I was always the taster, I was reading. I was either reading the recipe or reading a book, right? And so that is where my love of books started, through my grandmother just reading. She always said, well, come read this to me, or what did you learn today? And so my grandmother and my grandfather both raised me while my parents were away in college. And then just an influence of people that really rallied around me for support while my parents were away in college. My aunt, my uncles, my cousin. And so I had a strong village, as they would say, a very strong village of people just really pouring into me and just having my best interest at heart.
I love it. Now, how do you think who you were as a young person has evolved into the woman you are today?
Big time. Remember I mentioned to you, people would always say, she's been here before. I think I have an old soul because I'm all about just the spirit of gratitude, the spirit of connecting with people. That goes back to me really not meeting a stranger when I was little, right? So I've always believed in the power of connecting with people, making people feel good about themselves, right? So my grandmother would always say, and I know it's a saying now, always treat people good. You never know when you're going to need them, right? People will remember how you make them feel. And so I always have just the spirit of connecting with people and having other people's best interests at heart and doing right by people and giving back and serving. That was something that we were always doing as a little girl, through church or people stopping by my grandparents' house, as a pit stop to stay over, to see Clyde and Dorothy Walker. That was their name. So all of those things have really contributed to me as an adult now in my adult life.
Now, after working with your dad for the 18 months to 2 years, you mentioned that the person that you were selling to at the time offered you a position. What was that position?
So it was a position with a transportation and logistics company in the Midwest. In Omaha, Nebraska. Yes.
So you moved to Omaha.
I moved to Omaha, and I was going, Omaha, Nebraska. I had to find the map. I had to find it on the map. I had never, who's in Omaha, right? Particularly people of color. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And so I did my research and I said, you know what? Take it. Experience is just invaluable. You will get there and you'll learn and you'll meet a lot of people. And I did just that. And the funny thing about it is I looked up and had been in Omaha 8 years.
Wow. That was going to be my next question. How long did you stay there? So you were with that company for 8 years?
8 years. The initial strategy was go get 2 years of experience, right, and come back. But I went, did well at the company, kind of moved around at the company, went back and got my master's. And I looked up and it was 8 years later. Right. So I was working in the community, going to school, loving my job. And 8 years went by so quickly. And I have not been back to Omaha since I left.
But it served you well.
It did. It served me very well. A great stepping stone.
What are your degrees in, your undergrad, and then what you got when you were in Omaha?
So my undergraduate degree from Southern University in Baton Rouge, go Jaguars, is have a degree in marketing. And then I went to University of Nebraska. I have an MBA. And then I have a doctorate in business, a DBA.
Right,
so
good.
Business acumen all through.
Right. Now, where did you go after you left Omaha? Did you go back to Houston?
No. After I left Omaha, I then went to Rochester, New York.
Oh.
I was working for a manufacturing company in upstate Rochester. Did that for about 5 years, then went to Austin, Texas, was working for a computer company, then left Austin and came back to Atlanta in the early 2000s.
Okay, so tell us about the moment when you transitioned into the wonderful work that you do now, which is interesting that you mentioned is very much of service, working in the field of diversity, and you've really become just a leader in that field. So how did you transition into that first position?
So I was actually, unfortunately, part of a downsizing from a company when I moved to Atlanta. Worked there for about 2 years, and they did some downsizing, and they said, okay, thank you, but no thank you. And I said, okay, so what's next for me? And a friend of mine called and said, this is when supplier diversity was really beginning to be a big movement for corporations and a commitment. Corporations were really thinking, wow, we need to really get on board. Diversity was the buzzword then, right? And so a friend of mine called me and said, you know what, there's a job at this company I think you'd be great at. She said, I know you don't have a lot of experience, but you're a smart girl, quick learn. She said, but I think you'd be good at this because you have the entrepreneur background. And now you're sitting on the other side of the table looking for entrepreneurs for corporate. I said, yeah, well, I don't know. That doesn't sound, I've always wanted to work like in a bottom line business unit, right? Whether it was sales or, drawing revenue. To me, this was a feel good kind of campaign, right? So I really needed to understand the seriousness of the company, right? Because it was just a good thing to do with no real measures behind it back then. So I looked into it and went to the company and kind of talked to the leader. The good news is the person that was looking to hire the person, he didn't have a whole lot of knowledge around it. All he knew is he wanted the company to begin to practice supplier diversity. So I said, you know what, Karmetria, this is an opportunity for you to get in there and turn this thing around and blaze trails and own it, right?
Right, make it your own.
Exactly. You'll be the first to do it, right? What you say is golden because they don't know what they don't know, right? You're the first to do it. And so I thought about it and prayed about it, and I took the job and began to develop a supplier diversity company for a Fortune 100 company at that time. And so went in, put the program in, put in success measures, put in goals for the company at that time. And that's where it all got started. And it was just so gratifying for me because now I was on the other side of the table helping entrepreneurs get corporate contracts. And I remembered when I was on their side of the table being an entrepreneur trying to get corporate contracts. So I brought, two hats to the table.
Two very important hats. Yeah,
exactly. I was supporting the company, but I also could walk in the shoes of the entrepreneur and knowing what they were thinking, feeling, and what they were needing to really become a strategic partner of a corporation.
That's such a good point because of, as you mentioned, bringing two hats to the table, you really know, you can see it from both sides. Literally, you've been on both sides. So you know what the entrepreneurs are going through in order to either pitch or get their companies ready to be in the supplier diversity program. And then obviously knowing from the other side of what the company needs are. So what year was that?
Let's see. Oh, Elayne, I'm dating myself. This was 2001.
2001. Right. You were in Atlanta at that point.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, this was 2001. Yep.
So over the past decade now, you've received a long list of awards and recognition for being a leader in the field of supplier diversity. So we'll say that job worked out. You went on to other things and done very well. And your current position is Director of Supplier Diversity at Delta Airlines.
Correct.
Now, in the simplest terms, for all of us entrepreneurs out there, myself included, tell us what supplier diversity is.
Yep. So, like I always say, if I had to explain my job to my grandmother, this is it. I am the person responsible for making sure our procurement practices are inclusive of women-owned businesses, minority businesses, small businesses, veteran businesses, and lesbian and gay businesses, right? So we want to make sure all those diverse businesses have the same contractual opportunities as those larger companies, period. That's simple. Yep.
Excellent. Now, how does supplier diversity work?
So the way it works for Delta Airlines, if you are a business that meets any of that criteria, you first have to be certified. And that means there are governing certifying agencies in all the states you live in where you have to be certified. And that just tells us that you are a credible woman or minority owned business. Now, what does that mean? Certification means you have to be 51% owned, operated, and managed by that underserved group of business that you're in. So if you're a woman-owned business, it needs to be 51% owned by women. Minority-owned business, 51% owned by a minority, and so forth and so on. And so these certifying bodies, they certify those companies, which just let corporate America know that you are legally and viably a certified minority woman-owned business. So that's the first step. You have to get certified because that lets us know that you are a legitimate business playing in that space.
Mm-hmm. And each state has I'm sorry to interrupt, each state you said has their own certification boards.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Once you are certified, now keep in mind this certification will open so many doors for you, not only for Delta Airlines, but other corporations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because other corporations that have supplier diversity goals and strategy, their criteria is that you have to be certified. So you're not only just doing it for Delta, it is the ROI on getting certified is definitely the way to go and very valuable because you can leverage that in getting other corporate business.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're certified, so many of us, Delta included, we have a website, delta.com/supplier diversity, where you can go and learn what we're looking for, right? Most of the time when people think of airlines, they think of two things, right? The flight attendant and the pilot.
Right.
For some reason, that's it. But think about it. Everything that gets the operation going, if you're on the plane, the food, the cookies, the magazine, the in-flight entertainment, the lavatories, the soaps in the bathroom, the lotions in the bathroom, right? So then when you get to the airport, the wheelchair handlers, right? All the mechanical baggage that when you get your baggage from the carousel, then when you think of the airplane, the engines, the components, the mechanical devices, the jet fuel, it is such a wide variety of things that keeps our airline going. So I really encourage people to think beyond the flight attendant and the pilot.
Right.
It's so much more for us to get you from A to B on time and safe.
Excellent. Now, why is it smart for women entrepreneurs, especially, to be aware of supplier diversity programs?
Mm-hmm. Extremely smart. I want you to remember three numbers. In 2016, the numbers I want you to remember are 11.9, 6, and 9. 2016, there were 11.9 million women-owned businesses in the U.S., employing over 6 million people, generating $9 trillion in revenue. So ladies, it's our time. Mm-hmm. It is a time for a woman entrepreneur. If she's thinking about the business or if she's in business, she wants to grow that business, it is time. Being an entrepreneur allows you so much flexibility, innovativeness. You're leaving a legacy. You're creating jobs. So being a female entrepreneur, now is the time to do that because many corporations have goals around how much they want to do with women-owned businesses.
Right. And I know when you and I spoke recently, I don't know if you can share this, but when you and I spoke recently, you talked about a new initiative that you're working on actually with Delta for, I guess it's for 2017.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my CEO has aspired us to be $1 billion roundtable members, BDR. That's what it stands for. And BDR just says that you as a company are spending $1 billion with women and minorities. Can you imagine? That is such a great impact in spending $1 billion with these companies. Currently, there's only about 25 elite corporations at the table for BDR. Once we get to this status, we will be the first and only airline. So as you can imagine, Delta Airlines, we pride ourselves in being the first at a lot in our industry. And so we are really working hard for the next 4 years to get $1 billion roundtable status.
Now, what type of companies are eligible for supplier diversity programs? And I ask that because a lot of entrepreneurs, many of us are solopreneurs, especially the people listening to this podcast. So we might think, oh, well, I have to be a huge company with 1,800 employees in order to qualify.
Right. So if you go to delta.com/supplier diversity, it'll give you all of the things we're looking for. But this is what I say. if you are a business looking to do business with corporate, one, make sure you have the infrastructure. And by that, I mean the scale and scope. You can handle a large Delta contract, right? Not all entrepreneurs are corporate ready, and that's okay. And quite honestly, I've met some entrepreneurs that don't want to play in the corporate space, because if you're going to get the infrastructure, that means what? You got to hire more people, right? You may have to have a more pristine IT technology system. Your payroll has to be in place. Instead of you just being regional, you may have to be national. So it is a huge feat to be scalable in order to do business with corporate America. Because what happens is, if you're a woman-owned business, you sign up to do business with Delta, the partnership is great, you're doing good work for us, guess what? 9 out of 10 times, we're going to grow that business. Mm-hmm. And you will need to be able to keep up with that, right? And so I remember I was coaching a woman-owned business probably about 4 years ago. She was providing training for us at Delta Airlines. And it started out as project management training, right? She was doing 2 classes a month with maybe 5 to 10 people. Well, project management became such a huge opportunity for so many professional people, it grew. And she said, oh my God, Karmetria, it's just me. I can't keep up. I need to hire more trainers. I need to train them to train these people. I need to redevelop my content. So it grew beyond what she even thought about, right? So I would just say, if you are looking to do business with corporate, just make sure you have the scale and scope for long-term aspirations and have the vision, right? So in her case, she was fine with the 2 classes a month, 5 to 7 people. Well, guess what? The classes were in demand. She was doing a great job, and it grew. Unfortunately, it took her some time to keep up, but she finally kind of did get the rhythm to keep up with the demand.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do we know when we're corporate ready? Is it really, one, looking at what the particular company is looking for? Like you mentioned, Delta has a page, delta.com/supplier diversity. And is it also, what kind of assessment, I should say, should we take of our own company to know that, okay, I'm ready to reach out? Because it sounds like in the woman you just mentioned, it's not that you already have to be scaled to a big company, but you have to be ready to do that if the demand is there.
Sure. So one thing now that can't talk about it much, but I'm implementing something called an acceleration program. And so to your point, if you are looking to do business with Delta, you know you want to do business, but you want to learn about Delta along the way, we're creating a 12 to 18 month program to get you ready. And it will focus on things to get your business scalable. So marketing, right? Relationship building, your IT structure, your finance capabilities. It'll be a 12 to 18 monthly self-paced course to get you there. Once you finish the course, you will earn a Delta certificate that pretty much says, I've completed this Delta acceleration program. I'm ready. Once you finish that, then we will have something called an open house where you will get to meet all the decision makers in your space, right? To talk about your business and to begin to go into contract negotiations or to see what's next for you.
That's amazing. And I know you can't talk about it too much, but can you say when you think you might be launching that program?
So I'm hoping to launch it maybe second quarter 2017, right? So I'm, doing a lot of assessing on the internally and with companies just to make sure that, this is something that companies would want, right? So TBD, more to come on that.
TBD, I love it. Now, what would you say are your top 3 tips for companies interested in being a supplier? I know you gave us some of them, but what are 3 things that you either have experience with working with other companies or things that you wish people knew?
Great question. And don't take for granted the things that I'm going to say. Some things seem so basic, but I've seen companies miss the mark. Know the customer, right? If you're looking to do business with Delta, research, right? Listen to what's going on in the market. Go to the website. Talk to somebody at Delta Airlines, right? Really understand the business by doing your research. We live in a great world of the World Wide Web. We can get all that information right at our fingertips, right? Know that we've just bought a oil refinery 3 years ago, right? Know that we've just won the J.D. Power Award. So it's real important to know the customer, know what their values are, and see how that aligns with your company and your values as well. So I would always say, do your research first and foremost. Second thing I would say, know your value proposition, right? So if you were to meet me and you know I am responsible for getting you in front of the right key decision makers, how would you sell your business to me in 45 seconds that would pique my interest? That is called your value proposition, right? How do you sum up your business in 45 seconds where I will go, tell me more, right? It's like a job interview. You know, that last question they ask you, tell me why I should hire you. That's your sales pitch, right? That's the closer. In 45 seconds, you want to let that person know this is why you should hire me. And that's the same with entrepreneurs. What is your value proposition? What are you bringing to the table? Why should Delta look at you further? In 45 seconds. So know your value proposition. The third thing I would say is sell solutions, right? So go beyond just the normal of what you think and what you know we need. Be creative in your thinking. So I'll give you an example of that. RFID tags, radio frequency identification bag tags to put in your bag. Nobody likes lost luggage, right? So a way to avoid that is someone came up with RFID technology where every bag will have a sensor in it so your bag can be tracked. So in other words, come to the table going, Delta, have you thought about this? Or this is what's going on in the market. Sell solutions. Sell us something we don't even know we need yet. Be innovative in your thinking, right? So go beyond just the day-to-day products, services, or widget. Come to us selling a solution with an innovative thought behind it.
I think it's so brilliant too. You mentioned sell us something we don't even know we need yet. Right, because that can make you. Do you think in that way it makes your particular company stand out from the rest?
Oh yeah, and as I mentioned before, Delta, we have prided ourselves in being the first at a lot of things, and when you partner with a company like that, you want to kind of keep that brand image up. So being innovative and forward thinking is definitely critical.
And how long usually are supplier diversity contracts, or do they vary?
So it varies. We have contracts with some suppliers that are year to year. It just depends on the scope of the project. We have some contracts in place with suppliers that are 5 years. It just depends. Now,
I know there's the webpage, and for everyone listening, I'll have a link to it so you can make sure you go there. But what kind of businesses, I should say, are you most excited about right now, whether for Delta, for supplier diversity programs, or in general?
So as you know, all things technology are great. Innovative technology. As you know now, our customers can check in with an app on their phone. We can send you a text message to let you know if your flight is delayed. All things to create a better customer experience for our customer is what we're looking for, right? If you look at our Sky Miles members, right? How do we keep them incentivized to continue to stay on Delta? So as you know, our bread and butter are our passengers. So if I were a business, I would think of ways to create customer retention or get more customers, right? That's first and foremost. Keeping Delta top of the line, getting our customers on the plane from A to B safe through technology, through customer experience, through marketing. But then there's also things like, when we got on the plane, I had a woman come to me the other day. She bakes gourmet cookies. And as you know, you have to eat on our planes in flight, right? So she came to me and said, I've had an idea. I would love for these to be in the in-flight service. What do you think? And so we kind of did a taste test. We did a tasting. We kind of talked to her about what that pipeline looked like. The cookies were great, right? So people in our first class passengers, it's an experience for them. They like all things upscale, gourmet cookies. They drink, wine. So the service in the first class cabin is a lot different than coach. So we are now looking at ways to get her cookies on the plane, right? The other thing we're looking at is if you're a Sky Miles member, when you go on our Sky Club, there's food, there's drink. How can we put our cookies in the Sky Club, right? These are some of our high value customers in the Sky Club. Again, they would appreciate a gourmet cookie, right? They're organic, they're vegan, they're diabetic. I mean, she has this great line of cookies. So now we're socializing that throughout our system to see where she would fit in. So things like that would create a better customer experience, anything that's technology driven or anything that aligns with our new initiatives for the year is always a great pitch to us.
And the new initiatives would be things that people can find on the website?
Yeah, to me, anytime, any company is always looking to do marketing better, right? Because again, that gets back to how do I get more customers? So if you are a marketing company, multicultural marketing, if we realize we need to get more Latinos on our plane, maybe you're a multicultural marketing company that can come to us with a strategy, right? We need to get more, veterans now is a big demographic for all companies. How do we get the veteran dollar in our to be more customers for us? So anything around customer experience, more customers. The big thing now are what? Millennials. Millennial. How do you get the millennial consumer, right? Their buying power is increasing. They're more educated. So if you keep up just on the basic business trends of any company, you should be able to apply that to any company and your business as well.
Okay. Now, excellent tips. Thank you. I had so many questions, I think, as I told you the first time we talked about supplier diversity and thinking about it. And the thing is, even though, as you said, companies need to think about how they will scale, but I really wanted to have you on just to talk to us, especially for those solopreneurs out there so they could start thinking this way. Because I think it's an opportunity for women-owned business especially, but all businesses that fall into these categories to look at possible growth, as opposed to just staying small or staying by themselves. Even though I think, as you mentioned earlier, some people are not interested in that. So this isn't a direction you have to go, but it's an opportunity. Now, I have to ask you what you think and let me know if you can talk about it. I know yesterday there was a lot of news swirling about an incident on a Delta flight where someone was removed from the flight and that kind of thing. How do you deal with those kinds of things, or is that even part of your area?
Yeah, so that's not a part of my area and can't talk much on it, but that would be more related to our diversity team. And so as you can imagine, we are really focused on a great customer experience for all demographic of customers. And I don't have a lot of details on that incident. Actually, a friend sent me a text last night and she was going, "What's going on?" And I said, "What happened?"
Right.
I didn't know.
Right.
I was very unaware. So I'm not able to speak to that, but just know that we always have a very reactive leadership team that are very close to situations like that. And we try to get a resolution as soon and as quick as possible.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, at least that much with us. Another thing, too, is it's funny, as you just mentioned that, and based on the tips that you just gave us, you let me know what you think, but there could be an opportunity there to be able to come to the company and say, this is a way that me as a company could help with training or something like that around this idea of having diverse passengers and maybe some education or something like that. Do you think that's...
That's an opportunity. I mean, everything is always an opportunity. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed,
right?
But that definitely is a way. Absolutely.
When you're looking at things that companies are, I say that because just overall with Delta or otherwise, looking at things, as you said, that companies are encountering or trying to figure out and then filling that void. Excellent. Thank you so much, Karmetria.
Welcome. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Now, in addition to your work that you do to provide access to women and minority-owned businesses, you also have a movement that empowers women called Paint Your Lips Red, which I absolutely love. I have on a red lip now.
Oh, good.
Tell us about what that is and that mission.
Yeah. So Paint Your Lips Red is a campaign to empower, equip, create awareness, and become a daily reminder for women to use their voice and watch the magic that happens through the power of wearing a red lipstick. It happened for me. I was judging a pageant, a college scholarship pageant for girls in Oklahoma, and getting my makeup done. My makeup artist says, "Hey, what kind of lip do you want today?" And I said, "Okay, red." And I've always worn red lipstick, but it didn't have the same impact on me that it did that day. And so when I looked in the mirror, I saw a different me. The magic happened. I mean, I felt empowered, able, poised, and ready, right? And on any given day, I'm usually, pretty confident. However, that day was different. There was a different swagger that happened. I was more intentional. I was laser focused. And as I went about the day, I received an unusual amount of compliments. And I immediately thought, Karmetria, it's nothing you've done different, really. It's just the awareness, right? It's just the greater sense of awareness that I was experiencing, right? And so when I got home, I was calling my girlfriends and I said, I had a strange encounter with red lipstick. Do you wear red lipstick? And tell me what happens. Hands down, all my girlfriends, oh, girl, yeah, when my lips are red, they better watch out. I'm doing it. Power moves. I feel confident. I'm bold. I'm courageous. And some women said, I'll put on a red lip and no makeup. When I have on my lipstick, I'm ready, right? I have a natural skin, but my red lips say, I got this. When I put on my red lipstick, I may not have it all together that day, but that red lipstick says something different, right? So it's just an empowering experience that I want all other women globally, all ethnicities, because red is just a great color on everybody, to just experience the magic that happens and a greater sense of awareness through a red lip.
I love that. Now, what do you think, though, was different for you about that day where the red lipstick had such an impact on you? Because you mentioned it wasn't your first time wearing it, but it was your first time experiencing it in this way.
I think it was just an awareness. We as women, we have that power already within us, but sometimes we need triggers to remind us, right? It's like, oh, you got this. Oh, you can do that. Whether it's, and for me, it was the red lip. I contributed to the red lip. And after I talked to so many women on the emotions that they feel when they wear a red lip, I just attribute it to that. And I'm actually wearing a red lip now.
Me too.
And since then, I've been wearing red lips more and just talking to women about it. But I just think that day just brought a greater sense of awareness for me. I was more intentional. I was just kind of laser focused. As they would say, I was killing it.
It's so funny. I got to tell you, I wear a red lip whenever I work out, too. When I go for a run, as you said, I don't have any other makeup, but I just put on a red lip. I did it one day and then it did feel a little different. It was sort of like, this is going to be part of my ritual. Put on a red lip, go work out. Now, it might seem weird to put on makeup to go out for a run, but the red lip just does
exactly
something different. Now, I have to ask you, do you have a favorite brand or color?
So I have several, but I will tell you a favorite one by a lot of women, and it goes with any skin tone, is Ruby Woo by MAC.
That's the color I wear.
Snap, 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 right? That Ruby Woo is everything. And a lot of women love it. A lot of women, they line their lip. I don't line my lips when I wear a red lip, but I've seen women line their lips with that. It's great. Some women put a gloss over it because it is very matted. It doesn't have a lot of oil in it. But Ruby Woo is just everything for so many people. NARS has a great one. Maybelline has one. Can't think of the name of it. MAC has another one called MAC Red. That's a real good one. It has a little more gloss to it. But those are just some of my favorites. And if you follow me on social media, I provide tips weekly on women that are still kind of warming up to the idea of wearing a red lip, because not all women are wearing red lips. So what I've done is I've kind of put the top 10 shades of the year, right? 2 weeks ago, I put a chart on how do you find your shade, right? If you're more fair skinned, you want a red lip that has an orange undertone in it, right? If you're brown to darker skin, you want a red that has a more blue in it. So it's really finding your right shade that you're comfortable with. So I've been providing tools and techniques for the women that love the campaign, but maybe just haven't warmed up to the idea of wearing a red lip.
And for people who want to go see you on social media, it's at Karmetria B.
Correct.
Excellent. Now, what is your vision for Paint Your Lips Red? What do you see the campaign or the movement? What direction do you see it going in?
So my mission is to reach 10,000 women globally. The movement, again, will equip women to become more aware by preparing for the next generation of women leaders. A national Paint Your Lips Red Day is underway, right? I want to get a proclamation for a day where I also want to partner with a cosmetic line to create a shade just for the campaign, right? And so once we have this day, I'll sell the lipstick. We'll donate the proceeds to a charity. It all has to be, a charity that helps the progression of women. And then we'll just celebrate Paint Your Lips Red Day with the perfect shade that was created for that day. And so that's the goal. That's the goal. the ultimate goal further is to maybe have a tea of some sort and have a Paint Your Lips Red Day and red dress fashion show, right? And I really want to focus on the American Heart Association because this is the number one killer of all women, no matter what their age or ethnicity is. The Heart Association supports that. So I would love to get women in red dresses that are heart survivors. They'd be my models in a red dress. We'd all have our lips painted red, a red dress fashion show, and maybe like an award ceremony of some sort.
I can absolutely see the organizations and cosmetic companies, whether it's bigger companies or some independent people who have different lines who would want to support that. So we'll talk about that. I'm here to support you. Let me know anything that I can do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the website for that, I have t-shirts as well, is www.paintyourlipsred.com.
paintyourlipsred.com. Excellent. And I'll have links for everybody listening, but paintyourlipsred.com. And also, speaking of the t-shirts, I know a portion of the purchases goes to Beloved Atlanta. Now, that's a community of women who have survived trafficking, prostitution.
And prostitution, yes.
Now, why is this organization one that was important to you to contribute to?
Well, you know, again, the awareness, the campaign is an awareness of all of those things that impact women, right? So although it's creating an awareness, but in you individually, but I also want an awareness that impacts women. So when you look at trafficking has become so huge now, trafficking and prostitution. So Paint Your Lips Red will support Beloved, which also supports that. Then we're going to support American Heart Association. Then we're going to support breast cancer. Then we're going to support AIDS awareness. All those things that impact women, Paint Your Lips Red will create a greater awareness around those platforms as well.
Excellent. Now, a quote that I saw that you posted, I like to pull quotes from people.
Sure.
A quote that you posted said, "Without the breakups and breakdowns, we wouldn't have breakthroughs. Your breakthrough is coming. Trust God." So I wanted to ask you to tell us about a time when you had to keep faith during a breakdown and how you had your breakthrough in that moment.
Wow. So as I mentioned, I'm writing a book now, so I don't want to give away too many stories, but remember I mentioned in the call earlier in the interview, I told you I was a part of a layoff. I was downsized, right? And so that was, I understated it then, but that was pretty detrimental to me, you know, because I was always a top performer, a woman on the move, a lot of awards, excelling really well and quickly. And that was my first time. I don't care how you say it, but I was fired, right? Layoffs or whatever. But I was fired. I was told, you know, we no longer need your services. Thank you.
That's how it feels.
That's how it feels. Now, you know, layoff, you know, although I got a nice compensation package, I was fired. That's how it felt to me. So because I was a person that always really prided myself on my career and being, you know, having, you know, this great calendar, people wanted to see me and meet me and learn how to do business with the company I was working with. I had mentors, speaking. It stopped, right? It stopped. And so I came home, you know, companies, I'm not, and I understand, but it always typically happens around the holidays.
Right.
And they told me the 1st of December, January 1st, I woke up, I had nowhere to go. 8 o'clock, I jumped up, I was in the shower and I said, "You don't have a job. What are you doing? What do you do?" Because I was in a routine. And I fell into a depression, right? Nobody was calling saying, "Hey, you know, how can I help?" Well, nobody was calling saying, "Hey, let's do lunch today," or "Hey, what do you think about this?" But more importantly, nobody was calling saying, "Hey, how you doing? I heard what happened. How can I support you?" Which is why I love your podcast, Support is Sexy. And I fell into a depression. And, you know, I really began, and I always tell women that don't allow the job and the title to define you. And I had fallen into that. That's not who you are. That is what you do. So often we become so over engrossed and so caught up on our title, the corner office, who's who. And I had fallen into that path, unfortunately. But then it was my husband that really looked at me and said, "You are not your title or your role. That was what you did. That's not who you are." Because all that was gone And I felt like, okay, what is my purpose now? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I was really chasing my career for about, 5 to 7 years. And so when I was fired, that's how it registered to me. And I got really depressed. And then I would say probably about week 3, I began to come out of that. And I began to just kind of shift my thinking. And I said, okay, you're smart. You've done all these things so well for so many years. You are here for a reason. Let's think about what's next for you. Let's rebrand yourself. And the beauty of it is I began to do things that I wasn't able to do while I had the job, right? So for instance, my great grandmother that I told you about, 106, I went and spent 2 weeks with her. Now working, I could have never done that because I just didn't have the time to take. So I went to South Louisiana, honey. I was canning preserves, drawing water out of the well.
I love it.
Wrapping her cakes with her. And I really got in tune with Karmetria. She lived, way out in the country. I took a lot of nature walks and I got in alignment with my real purpose and my vision, right? And that all these things are great to have, but that is not who you are. And so that was a breakdown moment for me. But the breakthrough was, it's not who you are. It's only what you did. So often now I tell people I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt. I'm not a director at Delta. I am a wife, daughter, aunt, friend, sister to so many first.
Right. And
those are the things that makes exactly
always be those things, no matter what happens professionally.
I can never lose those titles. And so that was my breakdown and that was my breakthrough. Now I still show up at work, I still perform, but I look at it through a different lens. To your point of what you just said, if for whatever reason, if something happens, I'm no longer at Delta, those things that are really important to me, I can never lose those titles.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That's powerful. And I think because of so many of us get caught up from a professional standpoint, if we have a corporate job or career, but also even from the business side, a lot of us go through as entrepreneurs, maybe the first business fails or it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do or that kind of thing. And we get wrapped up in that failure and, things happen, failure happens or people get fired. And as you said, that doesn't define you. I think to your point, what defines you are the things that you really love and cherish in your life, but also how you make the comeback, so to speak, just thinking of what's going to be your next step. That didn't work for a reason. What are you going to do now?
And I really used that time to rebrand myself. And I was real picky about the next job that I took, right? Because I feel like I had, really began to show credibility and performance and a track record. And I didn't just take any job. I took one where I really thought I could make a contribution and make a difference.
When you did the process of rebranding, what were some of the things that you considered for yourself, for anyone that might be going through that now?
Yeah, I sat down and I made a list. I made a list of 3 things. One list was, what are you good at? The second one was, what do people think that I'm good at? Maybe that I don't even see. And then what do I enjoy? And so as I began to look at those lists, it was very clear that I love to serve, right? I really like working with entrepreneurs. So I knew I would still be in an entrepreneur space with helping entrepreneurs or either start my own business. And then I also have a real creative side about myself. That's where my marketing degrees probably come into play. So I'm real good at marketing and very good at strategic thinking. So I knew that I wanted to do something that allowed me to be creative, allowed me to think strategically, and allowed me to work with entrepreneurs. So I came out of that knowing, okay, this is what I want to do next.
And then you begin looking for positions or opportunities that aligned with that.
That kind of aligned with that, yeah.
Do you think?
And if nothing happened corporately, I probably would have started my own business, which is, why I'm at that point now. So.
Now, what's your book about? You mentioned that you're working on a book, and when is that planning to come out?
So I'm hoping it'll be out middle of the year. The book is just about my life. I talk about power plays for powerful women, my life in corporate. So often I was always the only woman, Black woman, and young Black woman at the table. And I just talked about a lot of experiences that I experienced through my corporate life. I was, bullied by a female boss. I had a sexual harassment from a male boss. I talked about my depression. And nobody was there to really walk me through that. And so I vowed about 3 years ago that I would write a book and pass the playbook on to other women that may have experienced some of the things that I went through, right? And so it's a playbook. It's a blueprint, right? It doesn't mean that how I overcame it was the best way, but girlfriend, if I could help you out, here's how I handled it. So it's just a chronicle of experiences, you know, me growing up in Houston to this point in my life. And I just want to pass that blueprint and that playbook on to other women to help them.
I love it. When the book comes out, you have to come back on so we can talk about it in more detail about all the stories that I know are in there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and especially how you handled being the only woman, Black woman, young woman at the table in those environments. That's very important too. Excellent. Now, one of the things you mentioned during your breakthrough moment was that your husband was there for you, and then you went to spend time with your great grandmom. So what does your support network look like, and in what ways is it important to you?
Support is huge, again, which is why I love your podcast. You know, as women, I always say we're reaping the benefits of the prayers of all those women that have come before us. We're more educated. We're running businesses. We're in corporate America. So the demands are so different, right? And so a support system is just so amazing. But I had to learn the hard way. My parents both are still alive. They live in Atlanta, maybe 3 miles from me. And my mom would always say, what can I do for you? You know, if you just need me to come over, you need me to cook, Mom, I got it. Mom, I got it. Well, in reality, I didn't have it. I really didn't, right? So we think we're these super women. We can do it all. You can't do everything at 100%, right? And I think for so many women, because we are so used to being in control and making decisions, we don't know how to ask for help. I knew I needed help. I just didn't know what that looked like. And if I did need help, it was sometimes so small that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bother them with that. But, you know, and now when I travel, my mom would say, hey, we got dinner, you know, for my husband. You know, I cooked two meals for him. I'll drop them by. Things like that make a world of difference.
Yes.
I was sick 2 weeks ago. My mom said, hey, you just stay upstairs. I'm coming over to do your laundry. Hey, I know you have a P.O. box. Let me go pick that mail up. Things like that. You know, my husband was traveling. My dog needed to go to the vet. She did that for me. But we don't know how to ask for help. But when you ask for help, oh my goodness, it is so freeing. It's so helpful. And you'd be amazed at the people around you that love you. They want to help.
They want to help.
They
That's why
really
I tell people
want to help.
It's a gift to them as well.
I like that. They really want to help. So ask for the help, no matter how small it is. Know how to delegate it, and just get a good support system. You know, my husband is an entrepreneur. It goes back to, you know, being entrepreneur. He's home during the day. He has more flexibility than me. He takes things and just do them. I needed a girlfriend. She had a baby shower. I was coming back in town. I said, I just need you to drop the gift off. He's like, I don't have to stay, do I? I said, no. I said, I'm not going to do that to you.
Right.
I said, just drop the gift off. And he did it. It's just little things. So, you know, ladies, no task is too small, because the people around you, they want to help you and they want you to continue to be successful, right? Because they're proud of you. And so I would just say, learn how to ask for the help. You know, delegate to the right people. Ask your children, appropriate age children, right? If you have older children, then they help you with smaller children that are driving. You know, can you go to the store, go to the mall, pick this up? Ask people. They really want to help. They really, really do.
Absolutely. You know, you were speaking my language, and it's funny. As you mentioned, ask for the help. But one of the things that I found, because I'm doing research and things for a book as well with Support is Sexy, one of the things that I found is hardest for most women is asking, but more so accepting support. And you said the words that I think is a reflex for a lot of us. I got it. Someone offers you something. I got it. You don't even take time to process it sometimes. It's just this reflex of, no, I got it. I can handle it, because if I don't, it means whatever we apply to it. So do you find that for yourself, you had to train yourself to be able to accept it as much as ask for it?
That's it. Because sometimes we think if we want it done right, nobody else can do it, right?
Right.
Because that's how we are as women, right?
Right.
You know, nope, I'm not going to ask him to do that because I know I'm going to have to go back and do it differently.
Right.
But you know what? Just take it. You'd be surprised. They may do it even better than you, or you'd be surprised that, you know what? I was being a little too anal about that. It's not that serious, right? So you're right. You have to get your head around it and then accept the way people want to help you and how they want to help you.
Right, absolutely. Now, in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Just one, Elayne.
Everyone says that.
A physical person?
Any person.
Look, I'm kidding. I would have to give, and this is not to slight anybody, I'd have to give praises to God. Mm-hmm. Just him being the foundation of who I am and being, that secret keeper through those tough times in my life and showing me the vision and just being consistent and seeking his will, not my will, for projects and things and people. It would have to be God. Mom is a definite close second.
Close second.
Her being a teenage mom, in my book I talk about, she said when she was pregnant with me, she would just cry. Imagine you're 17 pregnant, and being 17 and pregnant back then was not glorified the way it is now. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother conversation. Back then they would send 17-year-olds off to live with the grandmother. Then you'd come back as if nothing happened, right? Exactly. And she said she just cried. She was 17. She didn't want me to make the same mistakes or choices that she made. And she said she just always had a greater vision for me, her daughter. And I am reaping the benefits of those prayers big time.
That was wonderful. That was definitely worth sharing that one too. Yeah. Now tell us how we can support you. I'll have links, as I mentioned, to, one, the great resources that you gave us, which I so appreciate, but just for your own projects as well, your websites and social media, anything you want us to know about.
Paint Your Lips Red campaign, ladies, find your shade, take your picture, post it, tag, Paint Your Lips Red. I just really wanted to create more awareness around social media right now around the Paint Your Lips Red campaign. I'm looking for all women, all ages, all ethnicities. So please do that. Would love for you to buy the t-shirt. paintyourlipsred.com is where you can get the t-shirts. And then as it relates to anything, Delta related, delta.com/supplier diversity. I'm rebranding and rebuilding my website. So once that's up, Elayne, I'll be able to happy to give you that link.
Okay.
And it's going to have where I'm speaking, all my speaking engagements, my books. I'm going to do blogs and all that. So
excellent.
Thank you so much.
Of course, yes, of course. And your social media is Karmetria B, and at KarmetriaB.
Correct.
Excellent.
Correct.
And I'll have links to everything, as I said. Karmetria, thank you so much. This has been so informative. I got to tell you, speaking of God or the universe, I was having those moments. I might have shared this with you where I think about what kind of people I want to have on the show or what kind of topics I want to cover. And supplier diversity was one that kept coming up. And I said, okay, I'm going to find someone who's an expert in supply. This might have been, I don't know, months ago. Yes, because I did another interview with a woman, Catherine Finney, from Digital Undivided. And she mentioned how women entrepreneurs don't think about supplier diversity. So I said, yeah, that's true, myself included. And then you and I are on a panel together. It just is putting it out there. So thank you so much. I'm glad you were the person. That's another reason I'll say that, because you have that part of you, but so many other things that you're offering to the world. So I appreciate you. I'm going to be in touch with you, of course, to see what I can create. And get your advice, but I just thank you for all that you're doing overall.
And thank you for this platform, allowing women to use their voice and share their story. Kudos to you. And you let me know how I can support you, because support is sexy.
Support is sexy. Yes, ma'am. Now, before you go, a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything.
Yep. 2 of my words in all my bios is show up. Mm-hmm. Ladies, show up every day as women, as wives, as mothers, as employees. Show up, give it all you got, be intentional. And that's what I mean by showing up. You're intentional, you're prepared, you're laser focused. Just show up in every area of your life.
Karmetria Burton, thank you so much. Hold on just one second.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And the challenge for you is to take at least one thing. You can always do more than one thing, but take at least one thing and incorporate that into your business today. Take action today. Also, be sure to go to supportissexypodcast.com to get more information about this episode and to see previous interviews that I've done with other fantastic women entrepreneurs. And while you're there, be sure to go to the free resources button so you can see what kind of resources I'm offering to you guys. Right now, it is a 3-part audio training on how to make brave decisions. The decision to do something is sometimes scarier than even the actual doing. So go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to the top, click free resources, and download that free audio training. All right, so thank you so much again for listening. Until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.